Hi y'all, welcome to the 22nd episode of my Hypertravel with Hardie video series here on YouTube. This week we're going to Northeast India. I've already been to much of India by the year 2021, but much of the best still lay waiting. If you're a Buddhist, then Bodh Gaya is near the center. And if you like ethnic cultures, then Sikkim is right there too. I'm happy to just be in the country after my visa drama, getting on the plane, not to mention the obligatory jet lag. So nothing really matters now, does it? Well, the fact that Delhi is in the throes of 4-alarm smog might count, though that is a different issue entirely. But I make my next day flight to Darjeeling on the opposite side of the country with no problem. So that's all that really matters now, right? I take a taxi straight from Bagdogra Airport in Siliguri straight to Darjeeling up the side of a long steep hill as the scenery becomes more and more Tibetan without ever really getting there, since Darjeeling itself is still in West Bengal state and Sikkim is still a long shot away. But still, the autosomal DNA becomes more and more semi-Semitic, with some Asian features typical of the Tibetan region. But the cold weather is ultimately the winter. In the winter, yet November already, defining my existence for at least a few days and casting a long shadow over the whole affair. But the town is cute enough, even if ramshackle, India style. Nothing central when you're perched on the side of a hill looking downward. The toy train is lovable though, even if I can't remember much from that Owen Wilson movie, or whether I really even saw the whole darn thing. It was probably a longer run then than now though, I'm sure, since there's a landslide down below, and so the train only goes to the nearby village of Goom. But I can walk that, and so I do, and feel the better exercised by it, because I can't otherwise get inspired to work out when I know that I'm only burning calories that I will find hard, literally, to replace. If you gain weight while traveling, then it's really not traveling, it's touring. And I'm burning plenty just staying warm. I don't know how much you'd have to pay to get a heater in the room, but it might be worth it. And I'm quite battle-hardened from Flagstaff. So I stay a few days and then go down to Siliguri, where I landed a few days before. But this is just another quick transit stop, though much better than the first a week before in Delhi. There isn't much to see around this part of Siliguri, and maybe no different in the rest. But that will have to wait further investigation, because my goal right now is to survey the Bhutan border town of Jaigaon for possible future involvement. Bhutan is one of the holy grails of travel, and so its border with India is a natural place of interest. That's mostly because it's a hermit kingdom with a price tag to match, so the search is on to penetrate the veil of mystery. But it's farther from Siliguri than I thought. No simple 2 or 3 hours, but more like 4 or 5, at least on the local buses, which are packed with passengers and with no one wearing a mask, almost, except me. I have designs on the place, I'll admit it. And whether that ever plays out, it won't be because I made no effort. But the rewards ultimately are few, even if the place is not unpleasant, like most large cities tend to be, so I chill for almost a week before finally moving on. Got a hot date with Bodh Gaya, and a stop in Patna between here and there, previously one of the world's greatest cities at Pataliputra in the time of the Buddha, and a rival to Chang'an, Xi'an, its greatness. Some things never change. The rivalry between China and India before Rome stole their thunder, and Egypt and Mesopotamia were almost forgotten. The history of the world is the greatest story ever told, and now DNA helps to unravel the world before language. Nice. I only hope to get a glimpse with my humble scratchings. Bodh Gaya is in the Indian state of Bihar. That's from the Sanskrit Vihara for temple. That's top dead center for the history of Buddhism, famous as the place where the Buddha got woke, or found enlightenment, whichever translation you prefer. Same thing, really. And if Patna did little to show the glory of its previous existence as Pataliputra, then Bodh Gaya goes a long way to make up for that disappointment. Not that there are none of the noise, air pollution, and grime that plagues so many other Indian towns and cities. There are, but there's none of that inside the Mahabodhi temple complex itself. No, they're just Buddhists from all over the world gathering to share some of the well-being that they have acquired through the practice of Buddhism, even if the several traditions may have diverged widely from the original inspiration, which was the Buddha's almost alone after years of meditation and ascetic practices. which would send most of us to our shrinks, if not our graves. But even though the town itself has none of the centrality of place or purpose that the central temple complex has, it does have an overall good feeling and effect that derives from the affiliation. For not only are there scads of monks and lay followers present in the temple itself, but there are expat monasteries and temples from all the Buddhist countries of the world, scattered throughout the town itself, including one or two that may come as a surprise to you, such as Bangladesh. You didn't know that BD was a Buddhist country? Now you know. And many countries have very prominent presences, including such countries as diverse as Thailand and Tibet. Or are they from Bhutan? I didn't ask, and the two look and practice in very similar ways. Fast forward to the year 2023, and I'm still horny for Bhutan, though it's playing hard to get. So I went to Sikkim as the nearest reasonable facsimile, and oops, it's changed, to say the least. But Korsiong is where I started my trip, coincidentally, because I have a friend there, and because it's a worthy alternative to Darjeeling, to which I've already traveled, and with no real reason to return, certainly not in November. Better. From there I went directly to Gangtok, the capital of Sikkim, thinking that would be the most Sikkimese place in Sikkim. And that it may be, but it ain't Bhutan. That is, it's not traditional. It's a nice city though, if you don't mind the climbs. It's what I call a vertical city, up and down more than around and around. And that can strain your legs, but it also renewed an old injury for my left leg, which severely limited my mobility and joy for almost a week. Fortunately, you don't have to walk much to enjoy the central pedestrian mall, more reminiscent of Europe than India, or any of Asia either, for that matter. There's a nice big central market also, something rare in India proper, but standard issue in most of Asia. They're even flirting with supermarkets, but that's still got a ways to go. India might join the modern world someday, if you ever learn what GPS is. Haha. Taxi drivers don't ask for street numbers, they ask for phone numbers. True story. So, due to my sore leg, I decided to cut the India portion of my trip short, in order to give more time to Thailand, where I once lived, before heading back to the Philippines, my current living place. But not before a brief sojourn in Kalimpong, West Bengal, where Alexander David Neil also visited almost 100 years ago before passing through Gangtok on the way to Tibet proper. Upon finally arriving in the real deal Tibet, she even said, "We're not in Sikkim anymore, Toto," or something like that, to make the point that there's no comparison between the two. Also underscoring the fact that China's modern efforts to make a tourist dog and pony tourist destination of the place is nothing short of criminal on the list of the world's worst tourist PR campaigns. Maybe they should get some help from Bhutan. See you there. If you like this content, please press like and subscribe, and I'll see you again next week, I hope. Thank you. Bye-bye.